Hey everyone, good morning. This is UC from iTradePrice. It is August 14th, Sunday morning, little after 9 Eastern. So just wanted to get started with our weekend video. So QQQ. All right, so let's see what's going on, right? I know the monthly bar is still not closed. We're still in the mid-August, but just kind of, have a quick little bit of look. So that's where the support was. We saw a little bit of fall here after this one. We got a bottom wick, then another push down by bears, right? But it was reversed higher. So now we have a good 3-month sort of structure, providing support in this whole area of 315 all the way down to 266, right? From the monthly bar perspective. And so far, bulls have a nice push. And now this is a follow through month to the previous month, right? So we're seeing a little bit of follow through. If this keeps pushing higher, definitely in the weekly time frame, once we go and bring in the weekly view right here, as you have a nice push higher, technically speaking, price action wise, higher highs and a series of higher lows, right? So that is still intact. A lot of people try to pick up the top, as they were trying to pick the bottom. So that bad strategy. Just stay with the trend. This trend is still up, even in the daily time frame, series of higher highs, higher lows. So we have a natural sort of touch points here, and now again that's where the market stopped. Let's see how we open up on Sunday evening, and also let's see what's the Monday US market open does. But if this pushes higher further, right, with volume, the two touch points above this recent structure are not until 348.5, so that can be the upside target. And on this the downside, 315 is a good support, as that was the resistance coming up, and that was also the support for this week, right? So it has some meaning over there. In the daily view, again, still in the uptrend, right? That is not broken. You can see, the bulls have an upper hand since the past 2 to 3 weeks, right? And that's why we're here. We have a gap up. We never really kind of went back down to fill that gap or anything. Even after the bearish day, the day we touched 330.3, the bulls pushed it even higher further than that, right? So that's a good sort of a combination of bars. So now we just have to hold this gap higher, or even if we do a gap fill and then back up, it won't be a bad scenario, because that will also be a uptrend line buy. So that's, but do expect some resistance, because on the way up, this was a good resistance. You can see we have 3 touchdowns here in the daily time frame at this 330.3. So this is a big deal to get out of this, get out above the structure, right? So if we can maintain price above 330.3 level, hold that for a couple of days, right? Even if we test lower prices, but we keep closing above that, that's a good scenario, right? That tells you that the market wants higher. So we'll again trade it day by day, and that's how we'll evaluate it. Let's take a look at SPY. Similar view, similar feel. All right, we have 3 bars, monthly bars, right? Got a bottom wick, another push down by the bears, couldn't do it, get back up. So that's an inside monthly week, and now we're seeing a push higher. But again, on a higher time frame, if this monthly bar is to turn green to red, which that happens kind of around below 407, or 406, something like that, that would be a very bearish scenario, because that would mean that bulls are not seeing any upside follow through even with that. But so far they are winning. It looks good, right? Very nice green, solid bars. Now we're getting a 429.7. That's where we have a couple of touch points. Even once we get above that, something like 450 psychological is the resistance, 460 all the way. But if we push back down, this was the resistance on the way up, right? 41.54. So that can be the first touch support. Below that, of course, it can make some lower structures, things like that in the daily time frame if we look at it. Yeah, I mean, if as long as it's holding this previous day's low 421, again, bulls in control. Even if we on the way down for 415.4, that's where we have all these touch points, right? So we gapped up, never went back down. So again, it can still happen, but again, on a higher time frame, this is your support. Or a lower time frame for Monday, 421 should provide support, and then 429.7 is the initial upside target. I think we might even get there pre-market if this keeps pushing higher, like the way it was on Friday. All right, let's take a look at monthly Amazon, similar to QQQ, right? But this past month, it was a good green solid trend bar, right? No downside follow through at all. The opened up, current month opened up strong, and then since then it's been making higher highs here. Here's in the weekly view, right? Good push higher. 133.5 is your support on the longer kind of time horizon. That's where the structure support was on the way down, and now it has already again established that. So let's see what happens. It can make something like that over a higher time period, something like that. We keep pushing up, you know, go touch this resistance, move all the way down, sell off, make a higher low, and then move back up. But that's a you know, good few months out scenario if that's how it wants to play out. Okay, all right, we'll see about that. Okay, this is a view of Apple, monthly view. Pretty aggressive buying since the past you know, 3-5 or so weeks, and that's why you have this nice looking solid monthly bar, right? So now we're pushing towards the high of this monthly bars, which is around 179, 180. So let's see if it keeps pushing higher in the next 15 days, and we can break above this sort of monthly downtrend line, or that can be the first target on further push higher, which is very, very close, right? We kind of pierced through this back test of this broken uptrend line, right? Pretty aggressive, pretty strong. Again, price action wise, higher highs, higher lows, minimal overlap of the bullish bar. So that just keeps telling you that momentum is still strong. You know, of course, you're going to have a little bit of sideways movement, but that keeps on bringing fresh buyers, and we're making these, we have these gaps that we keep on leaving in the chart. But for now, nothing, you know, every bearish day, every red day, do not see any downside follow through, and it keeps on pushing back up. But we are really close to this so expect some pullback, but that can pull back again. You know, do not try to pick a top. If it stops you out, honor that stop, because you don't want to be stuck here if it's the, you know, going to start making the journey. But as long as the trend line is intact, this 168, 167-ish level is intact, I think the you know, momentum remains on the upside. Tesla. All right, let's look at the monthly view, right? So from monthly perspective, this month has been a relatively challenging for this one, because while the market in itself is making higher highs, right, this one couldn't really get above this 922, 915, and then, you know, it's kind of made this high, and so far, you know, flat for the month. You know, it started where it started off from. So, but on a monthly basis, this can be, if it keeps on going down, this can be a sort of a green to red month, and it's just, you know, we can keep on selling down. But of course, you have good resistance at 956 if it reverses and goes back up. Here's the weekly view. From weekly perspective, actually, it does not look bad at all. It's just a bottom wick sideways move. That means that this previous red week did not see any follow through, right? Any push from sellers to keep it down, and it, you know, kind of made a little bit of bottom wick here, hammer looking bar. So not bad. If we start seeing a push above 915, 916, that can be a good continuation of the recent trend here in the weekly time frame, right? And then 956 again being the first initial target, and then kind of monitor for further. So here's a 4-hourly view. I always like to evaluate it a little bit, you know, in the lower time frame as well, because of the range it gives. So you can clearly see the structure that it's making is right over here. You know, right here is all the sideways movement, right? Where sellers come in here around, what is that, 900 psychological, or 915 if you just want to take the high of Friday, and 838 being the low of that day, right? So well, not that day, I mean, sorry, the week. So this is where the price was all this throughout this week. So now if we push higher, we have a little bit of gap here, but it just looks weak, right? That means, because right now if you look at in the 4-hourly, even with the market pushing higher, it cannot, or it couldn't get above 915. So that is just relative weakness, right? Unless we get a closure above in the 4-hourly and above 915, just have to be cautious, because you know, even the bullish bars here in the 4-hourly has a top wick, not much follow through to the upside, mostly red bars. So from structure perspective, sideways to weak, unless and as long as above, below 915 price point. Okay. Let's take a look at NVDA. Let's take a look at the monthly view. Something similar, but the push above the monthly bar has not been pretty strong so far, relatively speaking, right? It's not close to this 193 mark, right? A lot of other names are on towards the high of their monthly prices right now. So here's the weekly view. Could be a, you know, it's just sort of an inverse head and shoulder type. Here's the left shoulder, made a little head, and now this is going for a right shoulder, with this being the neckline around 193, right? So as long as structure wise it's holding 160 and it's a weekly level, it's fine. But from a daily perspective, think here's how this looks, which is not bad again, right? It made this dip and then got back up. So from structure perspective, it's still a higher low, right? Now 193 is the level to target on further upside. That's where we have you know, the touch points a week and a half or so ago, and that's where all the structure resistance comes into play as well. So if we can get above that, you know, that's sort of a, you can say, consider a neckline as well, 193, and then 1204 can be see a little push higher, because right now no downside. Yes, we open the day in a red gap down, but those gap downs don't see any downside follow through, right? So that means buyers just see that as an opportunity to grasp the shares and push it back up, right? So the structure perspective, still more greens, less reds, gap downs get bought. So far that is the theme. We'll stick with that one, right? Until as long as that one is playing out. AMD is probably similar structure as this one, right? We have these series of higher green bars, no red follow through to any down day. You know, from the weekly perspective, the structure high is not until 111, right? That's where we have some resistance. As from the weekly perspective, that's where the breakdown started from, right? So that's how above we can go for at least in this run, right? And then we got to see a little push, make a little right shoulder, and then push ultimately above 111 towards 125, as that can be the structure. So that's the kind of price structure, future price play out that can happen. So make that a plan. Of course, if it does not play out like that, you don't have to stick like that, but just always good to have a bigger picture in mind like that. Okay, let's take a look at Google. Okay, so here was sort of, if you look at my video a few weeks ago, we were possibly talking about this bear flag playing out, right, in this weekly time frame, where this is a pole and this is sort of a weekly flag. Now, if you still believe that is true and that can happen, this is an excellent point for you to consider a short in terms of the risk, right? Because if it starts going back above this support, which is now, or should act like a first touch resistance, right? We have a touch point here. That is a good risk, right? Hey, I'm going to short here at 121.68. My stop loss can be 125, little above this weekly resistance, because that means you're risking $4 or $3 to make much more than that, right? If it does not play out, sure, you can close it, you get stopped out, but for a less amount, because this can keep going down and you can be chasing again if that's the scenario we are playing out. But how can we see if that's a good one? Let's drill down into a daily time frame and see what's happening in daily, right? We're still sideways, good upside days. Downside does not see any follow through, right? It's still making these sort of higher lows. So you want to see that sort of stuff broken down, right? You want to see a price breaking down from there like that, right? You want to see some sellers coming in. You want to see at least this gap starting to get filled. So that means that the sellers are in control, and this resistance level, right, this one, let me bring that up right here, this one right here, that can be a recent support structure. So if that is broken, that is your first indication that it is getting weak. And then once if it breaks down below the midpoint of this recent whole structure, right, that means it wants down. So that's how you kind of add to position rather than chasing it towards the low end, right? But you want to buy enough time so that you have time on your side. Meta weekly view, overall sideways, right? Congested price action, consistently no side is winning, right? Because you have one green or red looking bar one after the other. That's where the sellers come in. This is the first time in few weeks or even maybe a couple of months that the price has been able to kind of close above all this one structure, right? But it's still below 184. That's where the recent, if you kind of scroll backwards and see, that's where the support was, right? Because we kept on seeing bottom wicks there, and once we broke below that, that's where we started making this structure. So that means 184 has a good history to it. So if we can see a daily bar close above that, that's a good sign. And then we don't see a reversal back down, because then that would mean it's trying to trap the bulls. But if that does not happen, then of course 202 is the target next on the way up. But if it breaks down, traps the buyers, you see a bearish engulfing bar or something, get out of that position, short it with a high of this bearish bar as your stop loss and try to target this downside 154. Again, that's how you play the setups, right? So you'll have to have some time on your side if you're playing options based on that. From daily perspective, again, a gap up midweek last week, and since then some top wicks, but this from trend perspective still higher high, higher low, with Friday being an inside day. So that just means it's a pause, but it's pausing right here towards the high where it got rejected from the last time it was there. So unless we can get above that, or if we open here something like that, starts going back up, nice momentum, market 184 gets taken out, that's your trade, right? That's a good trade setup. Of course, then it has to build the structure above this one to give us some hope that this is done, right? Shop, sort of similar sideways action for the most part. That's why we've just been avoiding this name, personally at least, because it's just not a good read right now, and stuck in range, doesn't really get on one direction. So you don't have to force yourself to play this name if it's not giving you good buys. Netflix was a good one. So on this name right here, so we don't need that, clear drawing set. So yeah, from weekly perspective, right, it was a good setup, because this stuff that you see in a weekly time frame with higher highs and sideways movement, this is an ascending triangle, right? A really good looking one in a lower time frame. So if I go into, let's say, a 4-hourly view, this was a good trade that we spotted and traded, which was that was making these higher lows in the ascending triangle sort of formation, where this was sort of the kind of pressure cooker top, you can say, or something like that. There you have multiple touch points and the price just failing to go, failing to fall down, and then it kept on moving sideways, and then eventually it broke down, retested, and then boom, it went up. So pretty good, nice, classic, play points this was. So let's see what next week brings. But from NQ perspective, pretty strong, good 4-hourly bars, good weekly bar, higher highs. Again, this was expected, a stop at 13,584 from structure point of view. So if we can get above that, definitely the next step higher is around 14,250, something like that. But from daily perspective, it's still in this sort of caution zone if you are long, because once if it sells off, it can be pretty brutal and hard. But of course, you can have stop losses, because the way I see it, it's just kind of stretched, but still, we keep saying that, but it's keep denying being resilient to go down. So we'll just do and play the price action. We don't have to be hero and start shorting here just because it's at the top. So yes, it is at the top, but it can just pierce through it. It can go sideways for a little bit, remain sticky around this level and then eventually start going back up. But from the price action perspective, right, all these structures could not get any follow through. We have good, solid looking daily bars, and they keep pushing the price up. We don't see any solid trend bars like these that would be bearish. So far that kind of price structure is lacking. The last time price was here, we would get immediate, push to the downside. So that did not happen, right? Let's see if Monday becomes a bloody Monday, or if it can, maintain price structure above that. If that happens, definitely, this whole 14,200, 14,250 becomes sort of the target on the downside. Like to see it hold 13,200, right? If that gets taken out, because that's sort of the, if you look at the price structure, let's say in a 4-hourly view, you can see this sort of is the important support right here around 13,280, something like that, right? That is sort of the higher low of the recent structure in the lower time frame. So I like to see it maintain that to keep the momentum going. All right, guys, have a good rest of your Sunday. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.